All right, as many of you know, back to school can be a stressful time for our kids, and many parents have questions on how to handle it.
Dr. Laura Saunders from the Institute of Living is here now to answer some of those questions. Hi, Doc. Welcome.
Hello, friends, and happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. How was your birthday week?
Excellent.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Unfortunately, my daughter's birthday kind of interfered with my birthday week, but that's just sort of the way it goes at this point in life.
That's what we love about you, Dr. Laura. You're living what we're talking about. So,
living it every day.
On some level, the kids might be a little bit excited for the point of, let me find my teacher and see my friends. And then beyond that, there's a lot of like, ugh, or I don't want to go back, or maybe some anxiety about how it's going to be now that even COVID is ramping up again. How do we deal with the fear?
So there's a usual amount of anxiety and expectancy, and then there's anxiety that takes it over the top. It's the beginning of the school year. Parents, even teachers, right, are feeling that sense of expectancy, a little bit of anxiety about jumping back in. We know right now that there's a mask mandate for the month of September. Okay, so now we can sort of plan accordingly. Our kids have done this. They know how to do it. We just really need to be careful as the adults and parents not to take our anxiety and our worry and put it onto our kids, or what we call project it onto our kids. So we need to listen to what their concerns are, address them and validate them when we can. We might not always have the answers, but that's okay. We can seek out answers. We can call school support personnel. We can call administration if there's a question that they don't have. A lot of times kids have worries about the bus and where am I going to meet the bus, and is the bus going to forget me? So practicing routines is helpful, driving the route that the bus might go, or going to the stop and actually standing there and waiting for a few minutes. So practicing routines is also really important.
All right, and regardless of whether or not you're a mask or agree with the mask mandate or don't agree, don't argue it with your kids. It's the rule of the land, and that's the way we got to go.
That is exactly it. It doesn't really matter what my feelings are about the masks. It doesn't matter what your feelings are about the masks. This is the current guideline. So we are going to follow the guidelines, because we do know that when we follow the guidelines, this has gotten better. We had a pretty free summer. So we're going to follow the guidelines. We're going to hope for the best, but we're going to follow the guidelines. That's what will keep our children safe, our teachers safe, and us safe as parents and families.
So you spoke about the free summer. We certainly did. The kids have been loving it. If anything, they're maybe dreading about going back to schedules and getting up. How do we get them back onto a schedule for learning? I have a teen in my house who's like, I'm not starting to get up early now. I want to just soak every minute, which we know is not the right way, right?
Yeah, and so I look at incremental changes, right? You're not going to like all of a sudden get them up at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's still the summer. So just look at incremental changes. And I always like to throw out, it'll be harder for you in the long run. But there's some amount of learning that only takes place due to experience, right? A lot of our kids are experiential learners. They don't learn from don't touch the hot stove. They have to touch the hot stove themselves. So it's trying to be cautious about the amount of experience that they need to learn things versus we just need to provide guidance. It is a good time to start building some structure in, or thinking about the structure that you want to have for the school year. I like to be realistic about that, right? If you're a family that is not a morning family, don't plan to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and make a hot breakfast for everyone, because that's not what you're going to do. You're just going to throw bowls of cereal at them and get them out the door. Right, so be realistic about what you can and cannot do as a family, but start to institute some of that structure.
We only have about 2 minutes, and I want to get through these questions. So what about the little ones? They're used to being home with the parents, and now they're not going to be. How do you coach them?
They will adjust. Kids are resilient. They will adjust based on your kind of expectations for them. What you will see as parents, because I can even remember back then when my kids were entering kindergarten, the amount of anxiety that we felt was really more on the parents' part, all the worries that we had about what could go wrong. You will see as parents an explosion of learning and developmental progress, and it's going to be so exciting to see. So just prepare your kids for one day at a time. As I used to say to my son, all I need to worry about is today in kindergarten. I don't need to worry about anything else. So keep it at one day at a time and don't go too far forward.
Okay, that's great. All right, what about sleep? Let's get the doctor's opinion. How much sleep do they need?
Well, school age kids actually need a good amount of sleep. Like they need like 9 to 11 hours of sleep. However, parents, you know your kids. And, there might be a child out there that needs closer to like 11 or 12 hours of sleep. And there's some kids out there that can do okay with 7 or 8 or 9 hours of sleep. Know your children and set up the dynamic. The worst thing for you to do is send your child to bed at 8 o'clock and they don't fall asleep until 11 o'clock, right? Because then they're just stirring in there and creating a lot of difficulties for themselves. Know your kids. They need a good amount of sleep. Start to set the routines. Dial it back a little bit at a time so that you're closer to their bedtime by the time school starts.
Well, we appreciate all your advice. It's always good to see you on our Wednesdays. We will see you next week. Thanks for all your help.
Happy to be here.
Thank you, doctor.